We see Ikuto Toshin drowning in the ocean after he went overboard from his ship. A girl from an island fishes him out. He gets CPR and is knocked out from the blood loss before being taken to the village, full of women. While eating, the grandma tells Ikuto that everyone else drifted to the island as well, 130 years ago when their ship sank. The island has no contact with mainland Japan. Suzu is walking home with Ikuto when Ayane pops up. When the two reach home, we learn that Suzu doesn't have any parents. Suzu and Tonkatsu also join Ikuto in the bath. Ikuto gets knocked out and sees Ayane steal him away. When she's dragging him, Rin the carpenter intervenes and Ikuto also meets Yukino riding Kumakuma. The girls fight each other while Ikuto escapes. Ikuto gets chased by all the girls, so he tries to leave the island using a boat, but the island is surrounded by whirlpools, so it's impossible to escape. Ikuto sees a flashback fighting his dad, who tells him it's impossible for him to escape unless he defeats him. This triggers Ikuto, and after repeated attempts, he figures out the gap between the whirlpools, when an orca intercepts him. He gets knocked overboard when Suzu saves him. She brings him aboard Sashimi. It turns out the orca stands guard between the gaps to protect everyone from the giant whirlpool right across. 12 years ago, a once-in-a-100-year tsunami hit, dragging all the men, who were on a fishing tournament, away from the island. Grandma proposes the hide-and-seek tournament to catch the groom. Thus, Ikuto starts running with the girls in hot pursuit. The first one to touch him gets him. He gets pursued for a while, with Suzu protecting him from the girls before Machi shows up and Ikuto jumps into a river. He's thrown from a waterfall when Yukino grabs him with her bird. Lots of giant animals here, except Tonkatsu though. He falls and ends up in the eastern forest. It has carnivorous plants. While Ikuto is busy fighting off the plants, the lord of the forest shows up. A panda with huge white claws. Suzu shows up and Ikuto gets punched in the air by the panda. Ikuto lands in a tree and the girls try to climb up when a mysterious fog knocks them out. Ayane knocks him out and challenges Suzu. She keeps challenging her because she's petty. The sun sets and Grandma explains he lost. The winner was Suzu because Ikuto accidentally touched her before getting punched by the panda. Suzu doesn't want him though. Imagine being the only man available and you're still not wanted. Ouch. After breakfast, Ikuto heads out with Suzu to fill water. He realizes that the girls are much stronger than him. Makoto is introduced as Rin's sister. She also warns Ikuto not to touch Rin or else. After housework is finished, Ikuto and Suzu go off for real work, much to Ikuto's dismay. The first job is digging out sweet potatoes. Ikuto takes the lead and fails miserably. All the vegetables in the farm are huge. The next job is shearing adorable sheep, loosely using the word sheep here. Ikuto proceeds to get beat by the numerous animals before going to pick up huge mushrooms. He gets attacked by a fake one. This goes on while he tries to determine the difference between real and fake mushrooms. Ikuto's daddy issues come along when the girls say it's impossible for him to pick a real mushroom, so he goes on a mushroom picking rage. Near the end of the day, Ikuto feels useless for being unable to pick a real one, but Suzu tells him that living with him feels like she has a family, and hence he helps her with her loneliness. Ayane accidentally eats her sister Machi's cookies. Suzu and Ikuto are delivering vegetables when Machi shows up. Suzu gets bribed by Mame Daifuku to help Machi look for Ayane. Suzu uses underhanded methods to summon Ayane, and by that, I mean she calls her flat-chested. Ayane escapes with Ikuto in tow. Suzu catches up and Ayane bribes her with more sweets to find Machi's weakness, and it works. Meanwhile, Ayane asks around for Machi's weaknesses. The search is a dead end, but Suzu appears. She reveals that Machi's weakness is that she'd die if impaled. Machi appears while Ayane is dissing her age. Ayane realizes Machi's weakness is talking about her age. Doesn't work too well though. Suzu falls off a cliff and lands on the statue of Ojizo. Suzu believes that it contained a sealed evil spirit which she unleashed. Ikuto fixes it up before the two head home. Ikuto doesn't believe in the supernatural, even though the girls believe the spirit is real. Suzu is afraid of dark places and Ikuto comforts her while the spirit is lingering around. The spirit possesses Suzu and Ayane tries to exorcise it. She fails. Ikuto punches it in the face before scolding it. He thinks it's a polar bear. Ikuto and Suzu are fishing when Yukino drops in and tells the two that she lost Kumakuma, her bear friend. Ikuto and Yukino head out to look for Kumakuma. They end up finding the wrong bears as all the bears look the same to Ikuto. Yukino tells him that Kumakuma has a crescent-shaped mark on her chest. While the two are resting, Yukino tells Ikuto that she had a fight with Kumakuma and she's probably sulking somewhere. Kumakuma has been with her since she was 6. The two head out out to search again. Ikuto makes a poster of Kuma Kuma and starts approaching different bears and animals to search. They get guided to a bridge. Ikuto stops, but Yukino heads off to do it. The bridge collapses and Ikuto and Yukino end up hanging by a thread. Just when they're about to fall, Kuma Kuma shows up and saves them. Ikuto starts hearing the animals as the search brushed up his communication skills. An earthquake occurs while Ikuto and Suzu are working. It looks like the earthquake drained all the baths on the island. Ikuto and the girls make a bath for everyone, after which Ikuto decides to get to the source of the problem. Ikuto heads to the mountain that is the source, but falls off because he's useless. Yukino saves him with Takataka and the two head up to the top. Rin and Suzu come here as well. They figure out that dirt is clogging up the spring, so the gang sets to work. While Suzu and Ikuto are digging, another earthquake occurs and the ground breaks under their feet. Suzu hurts her ankle, so Ikuto carries her to find an exit. The two find a possible source of the blockage, so Ikuto starts working on breaking the rock. Ikuto somehow breaks the rock with the handle of the shovel, and water starts gushing out. It gets too much and Ikuto has to save Suzu from drowning. The water pushes the two out to the surface. Ikuto and Suzu head out to meet the Lord of the South, Suzu's master, the King of the Cats. It seems that they need to participate in a contest to decide the lord of the area. Their opponents are the Dog Tribe. The side that draws mustaches on the other will win. I didn't make this up, honestly. The Dog Tribe attacks while Ikuto and Suzu take a lunch break. The two overcome the dogs and head for the leader when Ayane and Machi intervene from Team Dogs. While the group fights, the Cat Lord pops in and draws a mustache on the distracted Dog Lord. Next day, Ikuto wakes up to Machi sitting on his chest. She wants to look at the sakura trees bloom. The girls head out with Ikuto to cross the northern area. The gang splits up to avoid the northern area lord, with Machi and Ikuto as a group. Everyone meets up after a while and they stumble onto the ex-lord of the north. He tells them the path to the tree, but the bridge is broken, so everyone builds a new one and they finally reach the sakura tree. Suzu and Ikuto are invited to Chikage's house so she can observe Ikuto. They meet Panako, the maid, a pink elephant. Chikage shows the two all the things that have washed up on the island. Ikuto tells them about the electronics that Chikage has collected. No electricity around though, so nothing can be used. It gets late, so Chikage asks the two to stay over for dinner and sweets. She bribes Suzu with Mame Daifuku. Chikage starts cooking using a cookbook she found. She ends up making less than normal versions of the food. Then she brings in curry rice and Ikuto loves it. Ikuto decides to go alone in the bath because of reasons. He does let Panako come with him though. Chikage spies on him while he bathes. Panako lands on the submerged Chikage, who then has to be carried out. Suzu's angry at Ikuto because he went with Panako even though she's a girl, but doesn't go with her. She tells Ikuto that she gets embarrassed because girls always want to touch her. He calls her gallant, much to Rin's dismay. She asks him to help her out the next day. Rin's family tells her at dinner to impress Ikuto. The next day, Suzu comes to help as well. Ikuto is introduced to Rin's family. Mikoto, meanwhile, tells Suzu that she's worried that Ikuto will fall in love with Rin if left alone. Suzu doesn't know what romantic feelings are though. Rin teaches Ikuto how to use a hammer while Ikuto is distracted by her feminine charms. She hits her finger accidentally and Ikuto gets too close for Mikoto's comfort. Ikuto and Rin getting too close and Mikoto trying to hit him keeps going on for a while before Mikoto calls him out for a duel. She entices him by saying it's impossible for him to win. The two enter a carpentry showdown, while Rin washes her face and they end up completing the work by night. At dinner, Ikuto compliments Rin's cooking, and Suzu watches and sees what love looks like. Ikuto tries to cook on a rainy day, but fails. Suzu eats it anyway. Everyone takes a break on rainy days. Chikage heads off to investigate frogs. Ikuto's bored, so Suzu suggests playing games. The two decide on shogi. Ikuto realizes that Suzu seems to be feeling a bit off. Yukino has a pillow fight with her animal friends. Rin creates drawers. Suzu beats Ikuto consecutively in shogi. Then we learn that Suzu used to play with her mother on rainy days. Meanwhile, Rin, Ayane, Machi, and Yukino head out in the rain. Ikuto starts thinking about Suzu's loneliness on rainy days when she pops in to comfort him. The rest of the girls come along right then. Everyone leaves at night before Suzu and Ikuto sit together again. Suzu sings a song taught to her by her mother. Ikuto imagines Suzu in a wedding dress. Suzu catches a cold because she spent a night sleeping in water. Ikuto is sent off to get ice. He meets Yukino's mom, Kagami. with Kuma Kuma and Kamo Kamo when Yukino comes along as well. All the ice is gone because Kagami made it into shaved ice to eat. Ikuto, Yukino, and her mom head to a mountaintop for snow. They reach a peak and they have a snowball fight. They didn't need to go to the peak for snow either. Ayane heads to the peak when she realizes that a snowstorm is approaching. Ikuto heads down even though Yukino and Kagami warn him not to. The idiot falls off a ledge. Yukino heads out soon after with her mom and the animals. They all fall down in an avalanche, dragging Ikuto along with them down the mountain to Machi's place. Ikuto gets a ride from Takataka and reaches home with the ice. Suzu has completely recovered though, and Ikuto ends up collapsing with a fever. Machi decides to train how to be a bride. She heads off to Chikage to learn how to cook. It fails, so she goes to Rin to learn. After a carpentry lesson, the culinary lessons begin. Meanwhile, Ikuto, Suzu, and Ayane discuss cooking together. This somehow ends up becoming a war between the girls to cook dinner for Ikuto. Just then, Machi delivers a message via arrow and invites Suzu and Ikuto for dinner. When they reach their house, a pale Rin shows up, warning the three not to eat food prepared by Machi. They try to heed her warning, but get carried off by Machi's Shikigami before they can escape. The three are trapped in the room while the sadistic Machi prepares dinner. Since they can't escape, Ayane and Ikuto try to get in the kitchen, but to no avail. Soon enough, the three are given a horrendous-looking dinner. Ikuto is chosen as the first taste tester. The food ends up tasting delicious. It's too much food, though. Ikuto remembers a girl's birthday while looking at her picture. Suzu is trying to make tofu for Tonkatsu's birthday when Ayane shows up with super spicy mame daifuku. Ikuto disappears for a bit, and Suzu and Ayane look at the picture Ikuto has and assume she's an old lover. Grandma realizes that Suzu is down, and Ayane tells her it's because Ikuto had a lover. Meanwhile, Rin and Yukino overhear the conversation and attempt to make Ikuto fall for him while he's down. Ayane has the same plan. Chikage too. Basically all of them. The girls head to Ikuto's place to see a note by him that says he's off to the sea. Suzu runs to where he is and sees him depart on a boat. She uses a rope to reel him in and smacks him. Ikuto tells her he just wanted to send a letter in a bottle. The girls show up to cheer him up when he tells them that the girl Misaki is his little sister. Everyone celebrates Tonkatsu's birthday, after which Suzu helps Ikuto throw the letter in a bottle past the whirlpools. The girls are talking about food around the island being stolen. Machi shows up and seems suspicious, so everyone follows her and they see her eating random food. She isn't the culprit though, so everyone starts investigating, Machi included. Ikuto uses his findings to determine the next two targets. They split into groups and go to place traps. Both places get hit by two separate culprits who end up escaping. After the failed stakeout, Suzu and Ikuto go home to find a robber in the bath. The robber turns out to be the girl named Mei, who says she washed up on the island with her friend Tono. Mei and her family work in a circus, but she had communication issues, so her parents sent her out to travel. She met Tono on her travels. She tells them that Tono was probably responsible for what happened in the cucumber field. While looking for Tono, Ikuto and Suzu keep Mei hidden from the rest of the group. After some searching, Inu finds the location of Tono, the Kappa. Her friend is a mythological being. An angry Machi confronts the two newbies before Ikuto stops her. The gang forgives the two. Mei and Tono get the water wheel house at home. Mei tells Ikuto and Suzu about her journey to overcome her shyness and how she broke Tono's seal. It was placed by a monk and became her friend. Mei goes to run an errand by herself, but she gets cold feet and gets accompanied by Ikuto and Suzu. The three go to Rin and get a bunch of supplies. They meet Yukino on the way back, and Mei ends up scaring her off with her bear costume. Ayane hears about Mei and goes to meet them. She catches the three by the riverside as Ikuto and Suzu try to comfort Mei. Ayane gives her a pep talk too and tells her to love herself. During the talk, Tono shows up. Ayane's told it's a Kappa. She immediately runs off scared, and Tono follows, thinking she may know her friends. The chase leads to Ayane about to fall off a cliff when Mei saves her, or knocks her out. Back at Tono's place, Machi tells them that she used to scare Ayane by dressing up as a Kappa. The other girls come too and cheer up Mei, who resolves to work on her shyness. Suzu is in a bath when the Lord of the South pops up. He had a message for the Lord of the West about the Lord of the East having been defeated. The Lord of the South describes the culprit, and it looks like it's Tono. Meanwhile, the Lord of the East shows up to Mei's house to challenge Tono, but falls in love with Mei. The Southern Lord intervenes before Tono and the Lord of the East, Pantaro, can fight. The Lord of the East runs with Mei Mei in tow when Taiga intervenes. Turns out that Mei Mei had beaten Taiga and is the current Lord of the North. She accidentally knocked a boulder and it fell on Taiga's head. The Eastern Lord escapes while Taiga tells everyone the story. Taiga catches up with him and knocks him away before telling Mei Mei she must go to the northern forest. Ikuto refuses to let her go and the two end up partaking in a duel. Ikuto gets a beating, and as Taiga's about to deliver the final blow, a shadowy figure tells him Taiga's weak spot between his tails. Ikuto attacks and wins. The shadowy figure turns out to be Karage, the Lord of the West. Mei Mei thanks Ikuto. Ikuto wakes up and Suzu has turned small and cat-like. Ikuto starts turning dog-like. The two find out that the animals have started turning into humans. While investigating, the two meet Chikage, who asks the two why they didn't transform completely. Turns out the magic effect was incomplete since the two lived so far. Also, she used a magic book to cast the spell. While she's trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat, Ayane pops up out of it and explains how Machi and her got caught in the spell. Suzu and Ayane tell her to turn everything back to normal, but she refuses and escapes. Meanwhile, Ikuto has a breakdown because magic exists. The three then go to investigate Chikage's books and unleash Genie Makun accidentally. He can grant 7 wishes. Suzu wastes one on Mame Daifuku. They wish for Chikage to be caught after a few dumb wishes. Everyone starts fighting over the last wish when Machi shows up and asks for tea. Chikage then binds everyone. She's about to saw Ikuto in half when Panako shows up and throws a boulder at her. Her book disappears and returns everything to normal. Ikuto learns of the 3 ninja sisters from Suzu when the two stumble upon Shinobu, one of the 3. She's hungry, so the two take her and her cow, Bufiteki, home. Shinobu got lost because her sense of direction is awful. Turns out Ikuto became infamous, and Lord Shimotora told her to meet the man who defeated the Lord of the North, among lies that he could split waterfalls and carve dolls from trees. Shinobu keeps nagging Ikuto to spar and sticks too close to Ikuto, which makes Suzu jealous. Suzu enters the bath right when Ikuto is in a predicament. An enraged, jealous, Suzu tells Ikuto to accept the challenge. Next day, Ikuto meets Shinobu for the duel while the girls spectate. Karage comes along to watch too. The fight is on pretty equal footing, but Ikuto has better technique. Shinobu then uses her ultimate, Kage Nobu Shinojutsu. Ikuto wins and Shinobu departs. Ikuto is reading a book written on the island at Chikage's place and meets her mother. Meanwhile, Suzu and the girls get an invitation to the Tsukami Pavilion, a hot spring resort run by Sakuya, a mechanical doll made 130 years ago. The girls take a bath and think of ways to get Ikuto to take a bath with them. Chikage tells the girls to hide while she brings him. Meanwhile, Ikuto asks Sakuya why she sent the letter, and it turns out she wasn't the one who sent it. Rather, she received one herself saying the girls plan to come play. Chikage inspects the letter and says that it's from the spirit Beniyasha, who committed 7 crimes in the past before disappearing 15 years ago. Shizumaru the novelist was the one who documented his doings in the book Ikuto read prior. The girls get dizzy waiting in the bath. After dinner, Ikuto tells the girls about Beniyasha before they hear Chikage's scream. The gang goes to investigate and find Shinobu all beat up because she got lost on the way. Ikuto goes to the bath and Ayane follows, but the person she latches onto turns out to be Beniyasha. Beniyasha reveals himself. He aims to hear the young girl scream. Saki attacks him with a bunch of guns as he's putting itching lotion on Ayane and escapes with the antidote. Meanwhile, the girls are waiting in their room for an opportunity with Ikuto. Chikage suggests that everyone go to their rooms and leave a message for Ikuto to go in whichever room he chooses, all while Beniyasha took his second victim. The third victim is Mei Mei. Ikuto chases after him before he can use the laughing lotion on Yukino. After chasing around for a while and getting beat up, we shift to Suzu's room, where Beniyasha tries to trap Suzu disguised as Ikuto. Just then, the real Ikuto shows up and a confrontation begins on the roof. Beniyasha throws the antidotes and Ikuto jumps off the roof to grab them. Also, turns out Beniyasha is the writer. While Ikuto chases a double, Chikage confronts Beniyasha and turns out Beniyasha is Chikage's mother. She plans to use the inspiration to write more novels. Machi accidentally breaks a seal, releasing Genjumaru, the two-tailed shape-shifting raccoon. Meanwhile, Ikuto and Suzu are fishing when they get duped by Genjumaru. Machi appears and tells them about the raccoon demon pretending to be Tonkatsu. Machi and Suzu give chase, but Genjumaru escapes. The three go to the village in search of Genjumaru when they meet Yukino. They ask her about it, and it turns out Genjumaru was disguised as Yukino. Genjumaru escapes again and turns into Mei. It escapes again after it's revealed. The three approach Rin, who's dressed up, and automatically suspect her because she's too feminine. Her belly button is revealed, and with it the truth that it's actually Rin. Yes, the belly button. The chase goes on for a while. Ayane shows up and gets beat. Machi tells her about the seal on Genjumaru breaking and enlists her help. They continue chasing before the four end up exhausted on the floor. Suzu talks about how it must be impossible to catch it. Ikuto agrees. Suzu catches Genjumaru pretending to be Ikuto, and Machi ties him up before sealing him. Suzu is washing her face when Yukino comes along with the feather of a legendary blue bird and starts talking about it with Suzu. She carries Suzu off with her to search for the blue bird. Meanwhile, Ikuto heads off to gather firewood. While they're searching, Yukino asks Suzu what kind of blessing would be the best. She states that for everything to stay the same would be a blessing. Just then, the two and the animals find another bird. Yukino chases after it with the rest behind, and they end up sliding down a crevice. Ikuto gets back home and gets worried because Suzu isn't there. Kumakuma, Inu, Yukino, and Suzu are all trapped. The injured Suzu believes that Ikuto will find them though. As she thought, Ikuto is out on the search, but it starts raining, so Tonkatsu can no longer follow their scent. Ikuto starts panicking when the blue bird shows up in front of him and leads the way towards Suzu and the rest. Everyone meets up, but the bird disappears. It was the same bird that Yukino chased before. Rin and the other girls show up too. Rin fences up the crevice and everyone heads home. Ikuto scolds Suzu for hiding that she's injured, stating that they're a family. Suzu starts crying because she's happy he thinks that way. He carries her back home. Ikuto heads over to the school where Chikage is the language teacher. Shinobu is the calligraphy teacher, Machi is the nurse, and Ikuto is the math teacher. Suzu doesn't attend though because she hates to study. In school, Chikage is formulating the plan to lure Suzu into the school. She asks Ikuto where they're going. He brushes her off and starts leading her around the diverted route created by everyone. On the route, the two slide down a pit that leads straight inside of the classroom. Suzu proceeds to run with Ikuto in pursuit. She dodges Rin, Yukino, and Shinobu, but Ikuto doesn't give up. He subdues her by tickling her foot before scolding her for thinking everyone wants to make fun of her. He convinces her to come to school. She heads to school and everyone apologizes. Suzu agrees to attend the school. Chikage then proceeds to drag her off. Suzu finds a letter in a bottle and brings it to Ikuto. Misaki has replied saying that she tried to search for him but ended up lost at sea. Ikuto tries to head out to sea to save her. He tried using a boat, then a kite, then a slingshot, but to no avail. Takataka tells him that the air is filled with whirlpools, so it isn't possible to pass through the air. Machi comes along and takes everyone to the shrine. She intends to take his soul so he can fly. Ayane stops her before she can take his soul out completely. Chikage then brings Makun, the genie. Ikuto asks Makun to send him to Misaki, but nothing happens. The stupid wish got wasted again. Suzu gets upset because if Ikuto leaves, then he won't be able to come back. She runs away with Ikuto following behind her. Grandma stops him on the way and gets the story from him. Grandma approaches the upset Suzu on the beach, who feels selfish for not wanting Ikuto to leave. Suzu goes to Ikuto. She tells him there's a way to get off the island using the thunderstorm. Grandma comes and tells them that the water gathering on top of Kappa's head indicates a storm is coming. The Kappa is Tono. There's a risk that he can lose his life in the storm too, so Suzu and Ikuto are told to pray to the sea dragon god for its blessings. Grandma hands the two a map to find the key to visit the dragon god. Meanwhile, the rest of the girls intend to get in their way and lure Ikuto and Suzu into a maze. The two easily make it through because Rin put up signs showing the exit. Taiga comes along to stop the two as the lords of the island are there to stop anyone from getting the key. As Taiga's about to attack him, Mei comes along and trips him accidentally. Mei and Tono stand against Taiga and let Ikuto and Suzu pass. Next, Pantaro comes along to stop them. The two fight and Shinobu intervenes right when Pantaro has Ikuto on the ropes. The third trial is the Lord of the South. He's arranged a bunch of fakes and the two have to capture the correct one to pass. Ikuto figures out who the real one is and they pass the trial. The two move on to get the key, but the Lord of the West, Karage, shows up, Ikuto's master. A duel ensues and Karage brings Ikuto to his knees. Karage uses a finisher and Suzu gets in the way to block his attack. Ikuto picks up his sword and uses his wit to land a hit on Karage and take the key. Suzu and Ikuto enter the Dragon God Shrine. Ayane is there too, swimming towards the Dragon God. She accidentally breaks its whisker before running away. The three escape the shrine before it caves in. Ikuto heads out to the beach, intending to go even without the Sea Dragon God's blessing. Suzu tries to come with him, but he stops her. Grandma and the girls rush toward the beach to try to stop him, but Suzu intervenes and Grandma asks if she's okay with watching him die. Suzu asks Sashimi to go after Ikuto. Ikuto reaches the whirlpool with Suzu behind him. She begs Ikuto not to leave because she can't bear parting with him. Ikuto remembers the time they spent together and reaches for her. His reach falls short and he's dragged into the whirlpool. Suzu swims after him and both of them disappear. Suzu wakes up with the girls around her. She goes back to Sashimi and asks to be taken to the Sea Dragon God. Suzu goes up to the god and begs it to calm its anger. She almost drowns before Rin appears to save her. Ayane swims to the dragon to ask for forgiveness and reattaches the whisker. The girls pray for the dragon god's blessing. Meanwhile, Machi pokes Ikuto awake with her voodoo dolls. Ikuto crosses to the other side of the whirlpool and wakes up to see Misaki with a group of men on a boat. Turns out that when she was lost at sea, she ended up at the island Eranto, where there are only guys. Misaki asks him to come with him, but after some thinking he refuses. So he leaves his sister on an island full of men. How considerate. Ikuto swims back towards the island. He gets swallowed by the whirlpool. The end. Just kidding. Ikuto washes up on the beach. Suzu embraces him and Grandma begins the Capture the Grandson-in-Law tournament, round 2. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you